Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are starting a new series since we ended Insurgent Mexico. So, yeah, today I thought this was kind of fitting with everything going on. Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl. Um, just kind of a reminder that it should be about the humanity and not, oh, they're different from us. Because unfortunately, many of those who have family that were put through the Holocaust but are now in uh, actual Israeli citizens are treating Palestinians the way, those Jewish peoples in the Holocaust were treated. And it's sickening. It doesn't mean to hate whole peoples, though. That's why on previous videos I do my best to try to separate the citizens of Israel from the government and military. Even though there's some citizens who do sickening things as well, still, we need to realize who the real problem we should have is with. Anyway, let's jump into this. Foreword. Anne Frank kept a diary from June the 12th, 1942 to August the 1st, 1944. Initially, she wrote it strictly for herself. Then, one day in 1944, Gerrit Bokenstein, a member of the Dutch government in exile, announced in a radio broadcast from London that after the war he hoped to collect eyewitness accounts of the suffering of the Dutch people under the German occupation, which could be made available to the public. As an example, he specifically mentioned letters and diaries. Impressed by this speech, Anne Frank decided that when the war was over, she would publish a book based on her diary. She began rewriting and editing her diary, improving on the text, omitting passages she did not think were interesting enough, and adding others from memory. At the same time, she kept her original diary in the scholarly work, The Diary of Anne Frank, the Critical Edition, in 1989. Anne's first unedited diary is referred to as version A to distinguish it from her second edited diary, which is known as version B. The last entry in Anne's diary is dated August 1st, 1944. On August the 4th, 1944, the 8 people hiding in the secret annex were arrested. Meet Guys and Bep Voskul, the 2 secretaries working in the building, found Anne's diary strewn all over the floor. Meet Guys tucked them away in the desk drawer for safekeeping. After the war, when it became clear that Anne was dead, she gave the diaries unread to Anne's father, Otto Frank, After long deliberation, Otto Frank decided to fulfill his daughter's wish and publish her diary. He selected material from versions A and B, editing them into a shorter version, later referred to as version C. Readers all over the world know this as the diary of a young girl. In making his choice, Otto Frank had to bear several points in mind. He began with the book had to be kept short so that it would fit in the series put out by the Dutch publisher. In addition, several passages dealing with Anne's sexuality were omitted at the time of the diary's initial publication. In 1947, it was not customary to write openly about sex, and certainly not in the books for young adults. Out of respect for the dead, Otto Frank also omitted a number of unflattering passages about his wife and other residents of the secret annex. Anne Frank, who was 13 when she began her diary and 15 when she was forced to stop, wrote without reserve about her likes and dislikes. When Otto Frank died in 1980, he willed his daughter's manuscripts to the Netherlands State Institute for War Documentation to Amsterdam. Because the authenticity of the diary had been challenged ever since its publication, the Institute for War Documentation ordered a thorough investigation. Once the diary was proved beyond a shadow of a doubt to be genuine, it was published in its entirety, along with not only versions A, B, and C, but also articles on the background of the Frank family, the circumstances surrounding their arrest and deportation, and the examination into Anne's handwriting, the document, and the materials used. The Anne Frank Foundation in Basel, Switzerland, which as Otto Frank's legal heir had inherited his daughter's copyrights, then decided to have a new expanded edition of the diary published for general readers. This new edition in no way affects the integrity of the old one originally edited by Otto Frank, which brought the diary and its message to millions of people. The task of compiling the expanded edition was given to the writer and translator Miriam Pressler. Otto Frank's original selection had now been supplemented with passages from Anne's A and B versions. Miriam Pressler's definitive edition, approved by the Anne Frank Fonds, contains approximately 30% more material and is intended to give the reader more insight into the world of Anne Frank. In 1988, the existence of 5 previously unknown pages of the diary came to light. Now, with the permission of the Anne Frank Fonds in Basel, a long passage dated February the 8th, 1944, has been added to the end of the already existing entry of that date. A short alternative to the entry of June the 20th, 1942, has not been included here because a more detailed version of it is already part of the diary. Furthermore, in line with recent findings, the entry of November the 7th, 1942 has been moved to October the 30th, 1943. For more information, the reader is referred to the revised critical edition. In writing her second version, B, Anne invented pseudonyms for the people who would appear in her book. She initially wanted to call herself Anne Aulus and later Anne Robin. Otto Frank opted to call his family by their own names and to follow Anne's wishes with regard to the others. Over the years, the identity of the people who helped the families in the secret annex has become common knowledge. In this edition, the helpers are now referred to by their real names, and so as they so justly deserve to be. All other persons are named in accordance with the pseudonyms in the critical edition. The Institute for War Documentation has arbitrarily assigned initials to those persons wishing to remain anonymous. The real names of the other people hiding in the secret annex are the Ian Pels family from Osnabrück, Germany, August van Pels, born September the 9th, 1900, Herman van Pels, born March the 31st, 1898, and Peter van Pels, born November the 8th, 1926. Called by Anne in her manuscript Petronella, Hans, and Alfred van Daan, and in the book Petronella, Herman, and Peter van Daan. Fritz Pfeiffer, born April the 30th, 1889, in Gießen, Germany, called by Anne in her manuscript and in the book Albert Dussel. The reader may wish to bear in mind that much of this edition is based on the B version of Anne's diary, which she wrote when she was around 15 years old. Occasionally, Anne went back and commented on a passage she had written earlier. These comments are clearly marked in this edition. Naturally, Anne's spelling and linguistic errors may have been corrected. Otherwise, the text has basically been left as she wrote it, since any attempts at editing and clarification would be inappropriate in a historical document. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. And this puts us straight into the diary. June the 12th, 1942. I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support. Comment added by Anne on September the 28th, 1942. So far, you truly have been a great source of comfort to me, and so has Kitty, whom I now write to regularly. This way of keeping a diary is so much nicer, and now I can hardly wait for those moments when I am able to write in you. Oh, I'm so glad I brought you along. Sunday, June the 14th, 1942. I'll begin from the moment I got you. The moment I saw you lying on the table among my other birthday presents. I went along when you were bought, but that doesn't count. On Friday, June the 12th, I was awake at 6 o'clock, which isn't surprising since it was my birthday. But I'm not allowed to get up at that hour, so I had to control my curiosity until 6:45. When I couldn't wait any longer, I went to the dining room where Murhay the cat welcomed me by rubbing against my legs. A little after 7, I went to Daddy and Mama and then to the living room to open my presents. And you were the first thing I saw. Maybe one of my nicest presents. Then a bouquet of roses, some peonies, and a potted plant. From Daddy and Mama, I got a blue blouse, a game, a bottle of grape juice, which, to my mind, tastes a bit like wine. After all, wine is made from grapes. A puzzle, a jar of cold cream, 2.5 guilders, and a gift certificate for 2 books. I got another book as well, Camera Obscura, but Margot already has it, so I exchanged mine for something else, a platter of homemade cookies, which I made myself. Of course, since I've become quite an expert at baking cookies. Lots of candy and a strawberry tart from Mother. And a letter from Grammy, right on time. But of course, that was just a coincidence. When Hanelli came to pick me up and we went to school, during recess I passed out cookies to my teachers and my class, and then it was time to get back to work. I couldn't arrive home until 5 since I went to gym with the rest of the class. I'm not allowed to take part because my shoulders and hips tend to get dislocated. As it was my birthday, I got to decide which game my classmates would play, and I chose volleyball. Afterward, they all danced around me in a circle and sang happy birthday. When I got home, Sane Lederman was already there. Ilse Wagner, Hanale Gossler, Jacqueline von Marsen came home with me after gym. Since we're in the same class. Hanele and Sane used to be my 2 best friends. People who saw us together used to say, "There goes Han and Sane." I only met Jacqueline von Marsen when I started at the Jewish Lyceum, and now she's my best friend. Ilse is Haneli's best friend, and Sane goes to another school and has friends there. They gave me a beautiful book, Dutch Sagas and Legends, but they gave me volume 2 by mistake, as one belonged to, as I exchanged 2 other books for volume 1. Aunt Helene bought me a puzzle, Aunt Stephanie a darling brooch, and Aunt Lenny a terrific book, Daisy Goes to the Mountains. This morning I lie in the bathtub thinking how wonderful it would be if I had a dog like Rin Tin Tin. I'd call him Rin Tin Tin too. And I'd take him to school with me, where he could stay in the janitor's room or by the bicycle racks when the weather was good. Monday, June the 15th, 1942. I had my birthday party on Sunday afternoon. The Rin Tin Tin movie was a big hit with my classmates. I got 2 brooches, a bookmark, and 2 books. I'll start by saying a few things about my school and my class, beginning with the students. Betty Blomendahl looks kind of poor, and I think she probably is. She lives on some obscure street in West Amsterdam, and none of us know where it is. She does very well at school, but that's because she works so hard, not because she's so smart. She's pretty quiet. Jacqueline von Marsen is supposedly my best friend, but I've never had a real friend. At first, I thought uh, Jack would be the one, but I was badly mistaken. DQ is a very nervous girl who's always forgetting things, so the teachers keep assigning her extra homework as punishment. She's very kind, especially to GZ. ES talks so much it isn't funny. She's always touching your hair or fiddling with your buttons when she asks you something. They say she can't stand me, but I don't care since I don't like her much either. Henny Metz is a nice girl and with a cheerful disposition, except that she talks in a loud voice and is really childish when we're playing outdoors. Unfortunately, Henny has a girlfriend named Beppy who's a bad influence on her because she's dirty and vulgar. JR, I could write a whole book about her. Jay is a detestable, sneaky, stuck-up, two-faced gossip who thinks she's a grown-up. She's really got Jackie under her spell, and that's a shame. Jay is easily offended, burst into tears at the slightest thing, and to top it all off, is a terrible show-off. Miss J always has to be right. She's very rich and has a closet full of the most adorable dresses that are way too old for her. She thinks she's gorgeous, but she's not. Jay and I can't stand each other. Ilsa Wagner is a nice girl with a cheerful disposition, but she's extremely finicky and can spend hours moaning and groaning about something. Ilsa likes me a lot. She's very smart, but lazy. Hannelie Goslar, or Lise, as she's called at school, is a bit on the strange side. She's usually shy, outspoken at home, but reserved around other people. She blabs whatever you tell her to her mother, but she says what she thinks, and lately I've come to appreciate her a great deal. Nanny van Praag-Sigar is small, funny, and sensible. I think she's nice. She's pretty smart. There isn't much else you can say about Nanny. Effie Dejon is, in my opinion, terrific. Though she's only 12, she's quite the lady. She acts as if I were a baby. She's also very helpful, and I like her. GZ is the prettiest girl in our class. She has a nice face, but is kind of dumb. I think we're going to hold her back a year, but of course I haven't told her that. They're going to hold her back a year, but I haven't told her that. Comment added by Anne at a later date. To my great surprise, GZ wasn't held back for a year after all. And sitting next to GZ is the last of us 12 girls, me. There's a lot to be said about the boys, or maybe not so much after all. Maurice Coster is one of my many admirers, but pretty much a pest. Sale Springer has a filthy mind, and rumor has it that he's gone all the way. Still, I think he's terrific because he's very funny. Emil Bonowit is GZ's admirer, but he doesn't care, or she doesn't care. He's pretty boring. Rob Cohen used to be in love with me too, but I can't stand him anymore. He's an obnoxious, two-faced, lying, sniveling little goof who has an awfully high opinion of himself. Max von der Velde is a farm boy from Medemblik, but a decent sort, as Margot would say. Herman Koopman also has a filthy mind, just like Joppy de Beer, who's a terrible flirt and absolutely girl crazy. Leo Blom is Joppy de Beer's best friend, but has been ruined by his dirty mind. Albert de Mesquita came from the Montessori school and skipped a grade. He's really smart. Leo Slager came from the same school, but isn't as smart. Rue Stoppelman is a short, goofy boy from a mellow who transferred to this school in the middle of the year. CN does whatever he's not supposed to. Jacques Kosernut sits behind us next to C, and we, G and I, laugh ourselves silly. Harry Shapp is the most decent boy in our class. He's nice. Werner Joseph is nice too, but all the changes taking place lately have made him too quiet, and he seems boring. Sam Solomon was one of those tough guys from across the tracks. A real brat. Admirer. Api Rim is pretty orthodox, but a brat too. But we'll go ahead and end this episode here. We have just started into the diary. We've read the foreword and a few entries, handful of entries. But yeah, this one is meant to be the definitive edition. So it's supposed to be one of the more fully known versions of the book. After we were told in the foreword about all the different editions she had. So, Anne Frank her and her family would get caught in, I think they said it was August of 44. And, yeah, the war would end in 45. But unfortunately, she would perish in a concentration camp, from what I'm aware of. Her father would survive, Otto Frank. He would be given her diary and everything. And thus, you know, it gave him a memory to keep, and eventually, towards the end of his life, he wanted it to be known what happened. But yeah, um, I remember reading Anne Frank's diary in school. I can't remember what grade it was, but I remember reading it at school. It's interesting. I know there's a number of conservative states who have tried to ban it because she's a teenage girl. She talks about things that were relative to her at that point: life, sexuality, growing up, and then with World War II and the Holocaust going on around her. But I hate when people are like, we need to ban books. No, you don't. I've mentioned this in other videos, but there's always a lesson to be gleaned from books. Whatever book it is, whether you like it or not. As despicable as it might be, there's always a lesson. What was Hitler's autobiography? Mein something. I can't remember, but that has lessons and information that can be gleaned. The Turner Diaries, even though it's despicable and talks about the joys of being I think it's a neo-Nazi and racism, and there's always something. Even no matter how despicable you may think it is, there's always something that can be gleaned. But when you try to ban that kind of information, you do no service to people. And that's why, these are the kind of books that should be read. This was the life of an unfortunate girl. We know that she tried to come to the U.S. before on a ship of immigrants. But like now, they just turned them away. It's like, we don't want people coming in. No. America's had an on and off history of immigrant hate. And it's stupid, because the nation itself is a nation of immigrants. Unless you're of Native American heritage, you're part of that nation of immigrants, dumbass. Yeah. So, it's just so stupid. Yeah. But we'll end that episode here. That will be our introductory episode. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.